Hello. Um, Hopefully the quality is decent. It's my first time with this particular setup. So I have some thoughts I'd like to share. I'm sure this is much higher quality than my previous while driving videos. So um, those are just convenient because while I'm driving, I can't help but think, and while I'm thinking, it's a great stream of consciousness kind of way to share content and to share ideas. I just need I guess, a better setup in my car, which maybe I'll work on. Anyway, I can't help but want to talk about AI and robotics and where we're going to be in the next 20 years and how's that going to change the reality in which we live as labor. Now, we have to kind of give this in context, right? I am what one might consider a techno optimist. Of course, the potential for misuse, doom and gloom when it comes to technology is possible, right? So there's no getting around that. People have evil intentions and can act selfishly, um, but it's not necessarily the most common application of technology. Is it the most impacting? Yeah. Like, let's just take one technology and do a quick analysis. So, during World War II, rockets were discovered, or rather put into play for the first time, the V2, I believe it was called. And that was revolutionary as far as technology goes. Um, but in addition to that, the realization that speed would dominate all future combat arenas led to the development of the jet. So the jet engine is used in every modern fighter craft. It's also used on the ridiculously good A-10 Warthog. That no matter how much the Army wants, or no, sorry, I don't think it's the Army. I think the Army does have some actually. No matter how many times the leadership wants to modernize that darn guy, he just doesn't go away because he was built that well. It's old tech, but at this point, it's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. But because those huge turbojets on the back give that craft such an advantage in the the mission that it has, that whole aircraft Vulcan cannon that it carries also doesn't really have a replacement. So the jet engine is a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, improvement to fighter craft over turboprops. So is that the only way that humans are using jet engines? Definitely not. Definitely not. It is commonly used for cargo transportation. It is commonly used for um, passengers as well, of course, and other scientific applications, I am sure. But what is the ratio of the application of this very powerful technology? And I also think that probably most transatlantic flights are, and trans-Pacific, are going to be using the jet engine because it's superior speed, reduces the flight time from a day or whatever to 4 to 8 hours, as it was the case. I think it was 8 hours for my flight from Atlanta to Manchester, England. But my good old friend Grok here, I'm going to ask it a question. How many jet engines are in application for military versus non-military applications. Are in, I'll just say in use. I hate you reusing the same word in the same time in the same sentence. I'll do approximately. So approximately how many jet engines are in use for military versus non-military applications? So the normal grain of salt, because this is artificial intelligence, it's still in its infancy, yet is a collection of intelligence that is pretty much greater than most humans can manage on their own. Collecting data from government websites, etc. Fortune Business, geoaerospace.com, blah, 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 blah. I love that Grok is now showing its scrubbed sources as well while it's thinking. It's very convenient. Let's just use I just want an approximate number. Just going in depth, which is great because I want it to be fairly accurate. So why am I doing this? Why am I thinking about this? AI is simply another tech. It is a revolutionary one. It will be revolutionary to the degree that jet engines were to aviation. Man, it's really trying to do a good job for me. It's a minute and a half into it. Sorry, I can't help but like watching it think. So this is just an example among many of revolutionary technologies. I also liken it to communication techs because it is about communication and record keeping. That is the realm within which it lives. So, from known history, there's a period of where, one tech would take over another. The first tech, of course, was verbal and nonverbal, like communication, period, like the invention of language. Thereafter, there is the advancements of language, so writing itself, different forms of writing that is more efficient, different, I'm not even going to touch mathematics, that's been a whole other thing, but the application of language to clay, to cave paintings, to eventually papyrus, and other forms like that. Of course, there's the Stick of the Covenants, which was a form of you have one half of this agreement and I have the other, which was very common back then for trade and business. There's the, eventual invention of, paper and books. Scribes was a job full time. You're just sitting there copying text. And then there was the printing press. And from there, the internet. Of course, there's also radio and TV that came along. There are other forms of conveying information across generations and distances. And then, the internet itself, huge revolution. The concept of social media, and its many different flavors now. And finally, artificial intelligence that is able to communicate with humans at the level that LLMs do. So, Yeah, okay. Wow, it seems to have really struggled on this question. It says approximately 50,000 jet engines are in use for military applications, while 100,000 are in use for non-military applications. Okay, okay. It didn't give me the total and the ratio. Give me the numerical ratios. I mean, I can do that myself, but it should be able to do that calculation pretty quick. Yep, 1 to 2. So for every, and I guess this is an interesting, yeah, about a third of the current jet engines that are active and in service are for military, and the rest is for commercial. Looks like it's thinking a little harder, so we'll see. So, in that case, that's a pretty significant number, right? A third. Oh, it is transformative, especially in combat theater. So it makes sense that there would be that many in application. When it comes to rockets, I actually believe that there will be more rockets for military application than for commercial, because every missile is ultimately a rocket, right? So the rocket engine is likely slanted more towards military, but the turbo jet is just, it's so powerful, so game changing. You can't shoot what you can't catch. So, oh wow, yeah, it's crunching hard. I'm like, bro, just give me a quick estimate. Anyway, um, so how does this really apply? Back to that question. When robotics has become so prevalent that common labor is less likely to be performed by a human, the value of the labor will plummet. And I mean plummet. So humans are going to shift. The value of exercising our meager little arms is going to be so small that we're going to have to rethink what value is. So that's kind of scary, and rightfully so. I understand. But as a techno optimist, I know that there's going to be some sort of equilibrium. Something is going to come in to play that will counter that force. It may take a while. It may even lead to conflict between humans who are able to utilize the technology and humans who are not. And that could look very, very bloody. But such is the nature of humans, we have always been quick to bring weapons to bear. Hence, the third of all jet engines are applied for military purposes. Yeah, it thought for 3 minutes to tell me 1 to 2. That's hilarious. Ultimately came down to the same conclusion. So, apologies for, I'm also a little sick right now. Okay. What does a rethink, a restructure of the value system really look like? This question plagues me. My brain won't leave it alone. So, here's some early thoughts. The monetary system is weighted in a weighted against scarcity, right? supply and demand. So, what becomes valuable when everything is no longer scarce? Labor is not scarce. So, completing projects and work is a simple thing to do because you no longer rely on unskilled labor from humans. You can have skilled labor from robots who don't get tired, just change out the battery or recharge, or whatever. Don't have complaints if they die on the job, so riskier projects are more likely to be taken. Are unlikely to make mistakes from fatigue, etc. Like, there's tons of advantages that a robotic workforce will have over human workforces. So it's going to be extremely hard to compete. But what do we have as humans to offer that AI currently does not? And I have one distinct answer that comes above all. And to me, that answer is ingenuity. The ability to think of new things. With all of my experience working with AI, checking it out, using it to help me code things, using it to, I don't know, analyze myself and others, it is apparently incapable of novelty. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. I do, because without the ability for our creativity to be more valuable than the thoughts of our thinking machines, our brains become less valuable. Our existence becomes less valuable. I'm talking about value, like monetary, materialistic value. And if that's the case, then the dreaded state where the robots are completely in charge and humans no longer have any influence over their existence is probable. However, I don't think we can really give the spark of creativity and ingenuity to our creations because we are not God. He is the one who has that capability. Now, I believe that we are sparks of intelligence generated by Heavenly Father. And I believe that He does give us some gifts that are like Him, such as our ability to understand right from wrong, our ability to feel the spirit of innovation. How many times has a new technology been invented in completely different locations on the planet at the exact same time? To me, that there's a divine spark there. So while I am a techno-optimist, I'm also a person of faith who believes that there are definitive lines between what is possible and what is not by us as children of God. So when it comes to it, we have to weigh our morals, we have to weigh our comprehension of what technology is and how it can be applied, and make good decisions based off those moral conscious thoughts, right? And maybe this is a bit out there for some of you. That's fine. I am more than happy to accept and entertain critique. I think there is so much opportunity for refinement of these thoughts. I'm actually working on bringing them into a thesis or some sort of white paper, or perhaps another type of a publication on this. Because the ultimate question that I'm trying to answer is, what does it really mean to humans who no longer have to rely on the strength of their own arms in order to get by, in order to feed themselves? What if all of those core fundamental things are no longer required for sustainment? I have to apologize for. I have to apologize for my kids are up, so you may get some extra noise. That's fine. I don't mind. They're beautiful little creatures. So, what does it mean when scarcity is no longer a problem? Well, I believe at that point, I mean, we're always going to be keen on ownership, on knowing what's ours, on sharing what's ours, on community, on physical space that matters to humans, right? That's always going to be pertinent. So I don't think the notion of money is going to disappear. I just think its value system, what it's based upon, will shift. There are Let me just lay it out like this. What if all people no longer had to work? It's not required. There is a high like standard of living that all humans can now enjoy due to the existence of the robot labor workforce and artificial intelligence enabling those robots to work efficiently. And also, let's assume that AI is an ally and will be and will not stop being our ally. Okay. So, also, in this conjecture, we must skip the evil natures of men who would use this kind of technology for acts of evil. Okay. I'm talking about the majority of the utilization of good technology, of transformative technologies. So those good people who have this tech in this society have now set up an amazing minimum standard of living. That just is by the fact that we are smart people and we have enabled the acquisition of wealth to be automated and to be evenly distributed amongst all. Okay, so that's a bare minimum. That's a phenomenal place to be. Many otherwise very capable humans are stuck and unable to really contribute what they could possibly contribute because of their lack of resources and the having to work at some shopping center in order to get food on the table for them and their kids. Hi, sweetheart. I'm in the middle of something. Can you come back later? Thank you. So, in this society where nobody has to work, I think there's going to be a significant division of types of people. There are going to be those who do not have drive, who do not have initiative, who will be more than happy to live on that basic standard of living that is just given to everybody. And they're going to be lazy, they're going to watch TV, play games, like that's all they're going to do. In fact, I think I can say this with pretty much certainty because we have people who already do this and live off of the sustenance that their either parent or they got wealth from somebody, and that's how they live their life. And I'm not saying that I necessarily have enmity for people who are like that. I myself am drawn a bit to, leisurely activities. I think is very valuable, and as part of the meaning I derive from being alive is being able to do what I love doing, which is video games and music. So with that thought, there are a lot of people who would much rather be pursuing intellectual things, would much rather be pushing the edge if they could, right? And we have tons of examples of that. The greatest professors, the um, leading researchers, the engineers who are literally pushing the edge of what we can do. That's always going to exist too. It's never going to go away. But besides the self aggrandizing type of people who do that for their own egos, most people, I believe, do that. Which I'm saying, the people who do it for ego purposes only will likely still be doing that kind of thing, because their value system is in their cloud. A lot of people do these things because it's monetarily rewarding. So that system, in my opinion, needs to persist. If we don't have monetary value for ingenuity, we will have more people stagnate than not. So in this kind of system where you do have access to a very high minimum standard of living, what does it really mean to earn something? And how do we keep track of that? How do we stop plagiarism? How do we stop theft of concepts, theft of ideas? IP is going to be very valuable. But at the same time, I think there should be some point at which you thought of something new and other people have contributed, so you don't fully own it anymore. There's a shared balance there. And I'm not sure what the correct technology is to capture this yet, especially since we're on the verge of having quantum computing that is supposedly going to be able to break pretty much any encryption within moments. Which, okay, we need quantum encryption at that point, right? I don't know what that even looks like. I'm not that kind of scientist or anything. In fact, I welcome some good ideas on how to better encrypt and protect. But if our concepts are marked as ours, the thoughts, ideas, all of that is then transferred into a written record somewhere and or shared everywhere that enables people to get rewarded if their ideas come to fruition. What that reward looks like, I'm not really sure. I think there's some balance there to be struck between, well, I had a good idea, but then it got changed 15 times. So, a ship of Theseus, how much of this ship is still mine? That comes into play, but there's also a reward that should be given just for sparking the thought, sparking the concept. And even though maybe it's no longer anywhere near what you started it off as, you're still the author of the spark of creativity. Hi, Mr. Howie. I am currently busy. I will talk to you later, okay?
Okay.
That's my other little bubba. So that spark of creativity is valuable. Think of it this way as well. Every time you prompt AI, you're giving it a spark of creativity. AI is not going to just sit there and think of stuff on its own. It doesn't know what questions need to be answered necessarily. So it requires human input to give it that initiative to think about that, to go in that direction. That's a huge component of why AI is even successful. Is because they made it available. They made it, gave it that first thing that humans had, like language, ability to think to a degree, but not really it's unreasoned to a degree, but only on data it currently has. Right? So I am certain there's going to be some advancements to our technologies through AI correlation of data. Like, oh, I observe this thing here and over here. This other thing that's happening. Okay, this correlates to a probable relationship between observation A and observation B. But if there is no observation B, AI will never get there. It'll never, in my opinion, have the spark of creativity to imagine what if time travel is possible. AI will only know what we tell it is likely, right? So I think it's always going to be reliant upon us. Just like, Iron Man puts on his suit of armor and he throws a punch. It's still him throwing the punch, even though it's encased in the armor, and the armor delivers a much forceful blow than his arm alone could have done by far. He's a weak human in that suit. AI is like that. It is an extension of our hand. So until I am proven wrong on these concepts, until someone actually has created just general intelligence that is able to reason and suppose and go beyond just creative, right? And beyond and into the divine divine intellect. I believe all of these suppositions I have proposed, right? All of these concepts and these hypotheses are going to remain true. And, if I'm proven wrong, that's when I'll be scared of AI. Not before. I'm not scared of my guns. I'm not scared of hammers. They are extensions of the human arm. So as long as I can classify AI as an extension of human intelligence, I will never fear it more than any other weapon could be. And I hope that gives some of you some peace who also share some of my corporate principles and beliefs, that humanity is at least a creation of the divine, if not more so. All right. So what does a value system look like? I kind of envision something like how we have our cryptographic wallets, right? It's a blockchain type system where you write a concept or a thesis and you post it out there, and other people with initiative evaluate it and either contribute or just hit a mark of approval. Very similar to how our current social media works, right? It doesn't have to be significantly different. My bad. So that's natural. People think like this. People coordinate and work like this. It's very prominent on X.com. It's prominent on, just social media. Just think about how that works. So when your idea is good enough, others who have spent time, and there still needs to be clout to a degree, like education, to a significant degree. It needs to be marked. So if for instance, I had an architectural idea for building a theme park or some sort of thing, that doesn't have to be necessarily scientific improvement, right? Say I live in a community that does not have, let's keep it simple, a bowling alley within 10 miles. And pretty much everywhere else in America at that point has a bowling alley within 10 miles. But this one in particular, I have used my human intellect to observe a gap. So I propose that we build a bowling alley in my town. Others in my town, locality kind of matters. They see my post and they contribute an approval or a disapproval or have a different idea on where to put it. Those contributions are then recorded and then quantified. And so eventually when it comes time to build it, and there's enough approval, it gets sanctioned by an architect, it gets sanctioned by, other humans of high skill in the particular area that's necessary. Probably the transportation department needs to be able to, coordinate the road structure around it or replacement of a parking lot and understand its after effects, etc. So this will all come into play, and everybody who contributes to the idea and the project will get some compensation in the form of contribution credits, or I'm not even sure what to call it. I mean, money is money. Money is the ability to apply your will upon the world. So in this case, you basically earn the money through putting forth the idea and it getting enough attention that it comes to fruition. So the bowling alley is created, and it's not necessarily owned by anybody. It's owned by everybody because it was built by everybody's efforts, right? So the notion of owning a business to build money, it really is not going to be as valuable, but it can still exist. And if you say, well, who's going to be the person who runs it and to maintains it now? If just because I had the idea of we need a bowling alley doesn't mean I'm that guy that wants to go do that. But maybe there's someone else like, you know what? It's the dream job. I would love to oversee a bowling alley. Okay, cool. That's a distinct and different part of the problem I really haven't touched on too much. Um, but at the same time, at that point, AI could run it all if you really needed it to. So, but that's kind of a new thought. Should a person be able to intercede and take the place of an AI position if they want it? In this kind of society, I'd say probably yes, as long as they are able to continue to do a good job, like good enough job. Unless it's like a safety sensitive position. Oh, I digress. So the bowling alley is then to be built, right? In this, we have a plethora of robot labor, so that's really not the problem. The physical space has been accounted for. All of the people who should care, the mayor or whatever, have looked at it and approved it. Right? It's to be built. What does it mean to actually build it? What does that mean? Okay. Maybe, perhaps, part of the value that you brought is spent on effectuating the construction of the bowling alley. So at that point, what is money? You're not paying those robots to build it. The robots can build more robots, so that's not even a great economic factor either. So I don't think there's really a lot more to think about. It's just practicing acceptance that having an idea equals earning value. So you spend some of your clout on the robot labor, the use of their time that could be applied to other projects. So there's a bit of competition there, I suppose. But kind of like GoFundMe or other crowdsourcing, you know, the more people who want what you're thinking of, the more likely your project will be completed. And there's also, we have to think about collision cases, where one person is trying to use a space, like a 3D, like physical space, for the same thing another person wants to use it for. So there will be some competition in that regard. I acknowledge that. Especially in like tight cities. But reconfiguring something when you have near infinite resources wouldn't be that challenging. Near infinite labor, near infinite resources, you can make a whole city in a day. No problem. So what's building a bowling alley at that point? When you can fabricate the materials on site using robot factories that are just portable, right? I go to the site, I don't have to order parts. I just build them right here. We have machinist algorithms that can just do it, right? So, yeah. I'm thinking pretty far ahead here. So bear with me. So what does it really mean that I've built a bowling alley and people like it, people attend it, its utility is proven to be worthwhile, and it's now a permanent fixture in my society? Well, I think that's valuable. Like that person who sparked it and everyone who contributed should be rewarded for something that ended up being beneficial to the entirety of that community. So how do you reward them when they already have every physical need they could possibly ask for met because of the high basic standard of living? Well, what I think it allows and should allow is A, they should be rewarded by having when they have another concept that needs to be evaluated, I think it should have a little bit. I mean a little bit. Everyone's concept should be given some evaluation. Um, but maybe just a little bit more weight to theirs, simply because it came to a full project. Like proposing and having a completed project that was initiated, I think that should carry some value, some merit. Additionally, whatever extra money they have at the end of that should, in my opinion, be at their discretion to spend on maybe slightly more selfish things. Not really sure what all that entails. That's a huge set of possibilities. But if everyone has an awesome car, well, maybe you could order one that's even more awesome and more customized to your particular needs and preferences. I would like my Tesla to have a few more features than it currently has. I could specifically request those. I don't know, more cup holders or whatever. So there's things like that. And there are other things. Hey, bud, I'm currently a little busy. Can you come back in a little bit? Thank you. Yet another one of my offspring. So, that, where was I? Oh, yeah. So there's the opportunity to more customize your basic, amazing standard of living. But there's also, what if other creatives, such as musicians or artists that do like shows, 3D, like physical space will always be a premium in any society. That's why real estate is like location, location, location. So if a theater can only support so many tickets because only so many people can physically be there for the show, then that will always, in my opinion, be a way to spend money. You're spending money on the privilege of physically being there. Now, if we ever do get deep dive technology, that value may drop to a degree, but someone will always be willing to pay for the novelty of getting to meet and greet, to be there in person, to experience things with their own eyes and ears, right? So, for instance, Michael Jackson is cloned and resurrected, and he's an amazing performer, and everybody wants to go see his show. Not saying that should happen, granted, but it's funny to think about. So, what if that happens and that artist is earning value by performing, okay, by establishing venues or renting, kind of, because venues will probably be more shared than they even are now, right? But if enough people want to see a Michael Jackson show, well, then they will vote for it in the otherwise, well, pretty much the same system, like the same social media type system. And they will vote for it, and then okay, this many people want to see Michael Jackson. Okay, so this amphitheater will be assigned to this thing for this period of time, and so he'll have enough time to come in, set up, perform, break down, and leave. Right. So that kind of thing can also be controlled. Right. It doesn't have to be different. It can be the same system. So it happens. People come. And the person who helped set up the bowling alley that is now a benefit to their community can spend some of their clout or whatever money on attending the Michael Jackson show that's just down the road that someone else contributed to, right? So there's always going to be potential for value systems to shift. There's always going to be potential for re-evaluating what is truly valuable to us. That's why markets are all the time in flux. People as a whole are re-evaluating its value. Anyway, I've probably rambled on long enough. This is getting on 44 minutes. I look forward to hearing, responses. Please take the time to, or at least comment what your thoughts are on my thoughts, because the more that I can refine these thoughts, the better my thesis will be. So I appreciate any inputs and or critiques, you know, instead of, as long as it's an actual critique, not just a criticism, I will more than happily consume it and ponder. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Until next time.